Great. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Inshallah, today we're actually going to be speaking about a very important topic. And when we're speaking about Western ideologies and how it hinders our success, there are so many different things that actually come to being because you're looking at hopes versus reality. There's the hope to get a degree, and then there's a hope to impress the parents, and then there's the side in where I have to be a proud Muslim. How do I actually put all of these different things together? You're falling in many cracks and trying to obtain a degree already, and you're torn between studying and maintaining the identity, and then you've got all these different challenges, not only coming from the non-Muslims, but even from the Muslims themselves, in where they're actually, even dua, believe it or not, are right now becoming a challenge. How do I actually know where to start? Well, it really starts when we understand that in order to define Iman, you have to figure out kufr. When the Prophet ﷺ and even the previous prophets were talking about what it means to be Muslim and what it means to not be Muslim, they were always identifying the place of where kufr is. Because without you recognizing, if you don't know what it means to not be, you're not going to be able to know what to be. And which is why it actually starts with understanding, of course, your Muslim identity actually starts with understanding what is not your Muslim identity. In other words, understanding the modern idolatry. When I say the modern idolatry, every single age, when you look at the different prophets, whether you're talking about Prophet Lut or whether you're talking about Prophet Shu'aib or Nuh, etc., each and every single one of them was actually shedding the light and emphasizing one particular main obstacle, whether that was in the deen or the idol worship, or whether that was in the behavioral type of deviation, like with Qawm Lut, or whether that was financial and economical type of deviation, like Prophet Shu'aib. But it would be extremely wrong to actually think that only there or only in idol worship is deviation, because never in history did it actually happen where all the deviations that happened throughout history were actually in one era. We have idol worship, we have social delusions, we have economical delusions, we have it all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the Dajjal, because never were we actually on the edge, on the brink of such a delusion where it all together manifested in a dangerous philosophy that not only infiltrated the non-Muslims, but even the Muslims. In where what we're seeing right now, different challenges facing the Muslim identity, in where we fail to understand the system that's actually surrounding us. We fail to know that atheism is basically the ground and not Christianity by all means, that is right now controlling the education. Why am I talking about education? Because right now, atheism is actually being sold in the name of education, and postmodernism is basically the Sharia that within education, it's actually being given to us. But if we don't know what it is, and we don't recognize the liberal system that surrounds us, then we too are going to be not only eating it, but we will actually be the ones. We will actually be the ones, without us recognizing it, living it, propagating it, and even giving it a halal label by all means. That's what's happening today. Muslims are right now actually being the students to study the secular education / with all the different things, all the different ingredients that are actually within what it means to actually study secular education. It actually means postmodernism, it actually means liberalism, it actually means feminism, it actually means all of these different things actually put in one dish. making the Muslims right now being prone to absorbing secular education and by all means actually being indoctrinated by the system without them recognizing. The result is that we've got Muslims that are right now PhD holders, masters in probably, the different fields of education, but in reality, they don't even recognize that they're actually nothing but another amplifier for atheism, postmodernism, feminism, liberalism, blah, 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 and the list goes on and on and on. What happened? It really started when the Muslims themselves were actually unaware of their own identity. They got the education from the Western society, but they did not actually have the Muslim education to filter, literally to filter what is actually coming from a Muslim source and what is not. Knowledge in our modern times, in where it stands our relativism, individualism, pragmatism, existentialism, and all of it is actually equaling and goes back to the main big dish. It's called atheism. Now, these dangerous philosophies infiltrated the Muslim mind, in where relativism, there's no specific paradigm to defining ethics. It's all about lobbies and all about individuals to actually define truth. There's no place of truth. By all means, not even a religion can define ethics. And therefore, it's all about the individual. The individual is the one and the place of emphasis. The moral and the worth is really going back to what you want. And at the end of the day, there's no truth. It's all about existentialism. Existence is always particular to your definition of what it means to actually create a purpose in life. And then comes in, it's all about pragmatism, in where just live a pragmatic life. It doesn't matter. Faith is to be thrown out the window. It doesn't matter. If it works for you, if it's something that's functional for you, then it should be fine. Don't worry about the ethics of it. Without us recognizing, all of these things are basically the paradigms of liberal ethics promoted. And keep in mind that it's basically within the secular system where it's all about, we would think that it's somehow subjective, when in reality, it's actually nothing but the Sharia of atheism. The Sharia of atheism basically stands on all of these different things that I had actually mentioned. Guess what? These thoughts are actually right now promoted within universities, public media, public libraries, public lifestyle, and of course, so-called education and freedom of speech. In where with individualism, just look at some of the things that you might not actually recognize, where it's all about the truth is individualism is all considering that you are the truth. You are the basis. Your own personal interest is what defines truth. And then therefore, trying to create this combination of different elements from different philosophies where it's just your personal interest. Don't worry about anything else. And at the end of the day, all of these different things, it's all about considering your pleasure. Your pleasure, yourself, is what brings in the definition of ethics, the definition of what makes something worthy, and the definition of what makes something worth doing or not worth doing. Now, that's the same thing. When you're looking at existentialism, I'm trying to make this not a philosophy alone, but what is the practice that we're actually seeing on ground? What am I being told? You're being told that you're the center of everything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, wait, stop. That's a new idolatry. It's not you that is the center of everything, but be careful. Without you recognizing, you're being told to create your purpose of life, in where it's all about the existence and the centers of experience and on the experience of your own thinking, your own feelings, and your own acting. And then why? Because it considered that the world is based on nothing but absurdity. And therefore, you have to create a meaning for it. In the end, is that it's basically considering that the center of this existence is really in your human mind, your senses, your pleasure. And then at the end, all of these philosophers regarded that you as the individual, not the society, and certainly not the religion, is the base or the center of defining ethics or defining purpose. When you look at all of that, it's extremely important to remember that in Islam, essence preceded existence. Your essence was designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, when you live the principle, you live it not based on your individual likes and what your pleasures are, but you live it based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in existentialism, it considers that the world is nothing but an absurdity. And therefore, it's all about you create the meaning of success. You create an expression to yourself. You create all the different meanings of absurdity. She's wearing hijab, but she's confused about her own identity. She's confused on whether it's all piercing or whether it's a hijab. Confused on whether I'm Muslim, but I need to express a liberal Muslim. How do I actually put the two together? What is actually happening is nothing but an expression of absurdity. Nothing but an expression where everything is just an issue. Hey, there's no basis to truth. It's all about your definition of truth. It's all about you creating what makes something true. It's all relative anyways. This is the area that is right now the area where a lot of the Muslims are actually living in, believe it or not. But we would even see da'iyas actually right now propagating such philosophies without them recognizing. Even da'iyas, yes, even da'iyas. Why? What happened? Because right now we're in the age where it's not necessarily a word of truth, but it's creating a truth. Not necessarily what makes logic. It's about emotions and how you create a narrative for it. If you look at all the different things that surround you, and including the social media, it's not about what makes something worthy, but it's all about creating a new social currency. If people like it, if people accept it, if people think it's good, if it gets me money, then therefore it should lead to success. Then therefore it's good. Now here's one thing, is that in Islam, truth is basically based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Truth goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, when you look at relativism, it's actually self-contradictory. Because the second that you say that she's got truth and she's got truth, but each one has their own definition, then therefore there's no truth. It's all about relativism. Now, in the end, is that if we don't recognize the basis of such philosophies, we will actually fall in these trends. Because right now, when you look at different philosophies, feminism, and believe it or not, but most liberal arts, please pay attention to this one. Most liberal arts, most humanities departments, psychology, liberal arts, anthropology, sociology, most humanities departments are indoctrinated and really promoting such philosophies in the name of education. I am not saying that there isn't any good in those studies, but I'm saying that a lot of these departments have actually become tools for the atheist lobby to lay out the narrative. What do I mean by that? When you actually see the liberal arts and especially the humanities departments, we usually think that it's all about reading numbers or that that's what science proves. But there's no way that when you want to speak about ethics, that you can necessarily be objective in everything. You have to have a paradigm. You have to have a basis that you look into to define justice, not only in defining justice, but even defining human. When you actually look at these departments, the definition of human is basically going back based on the idea that's all the survival of the fittest. That's kufr on the spot. Now, the application in feminism, for example, is that the woman would actually enter a marriage that it's all about the survival of the fittest. It's either me or you. If we enter a marriage and we enter a family with the survival of the fittest, in where we're actually right now even trying to develop a new gender, to develop a new identity, in where it's totally different than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in us, then what are we actually doing? Then we're living a narrative. Then we're not recognizing what these departments are right now actually teaching us. It becomes, without us recognizing, we're actually being told that that's what science and what studies are saying. And that's the main problem, is that we have a lot of Muslims that didn't study epistemology to literally sift the difference between what the studies are saying and between what the narrative and what the interpretation that's coming from a different ideology is trying to tell you. This is extremely dangerous, because that's exactly what's happening right now, in where we're given right now, instead of the argument and basically considering truth, but it's actually all about making everything relative. There's no place of truth. Instead of speaking about the logic of things, it's actually all about bringing in a narrative. Instead of speaking about the purpose of life and the essence that preceded the existence, let's basically make a new interpretation. So that's where, when we talk about human rights and LGBT and economy, women's issues, abortion, modesty, all of these different things, you're asked to speak about it in political correctness, my dear, because the second that you don't speak about it in political correctness, you will be accused of going against the new God. What is the new God? The new God is relativism. The new God is individualism. The new God is that you are going to consider that there is no truth. The second that you speak of truth is that same second that you decided to go against the new truth, that there is no truth. And you will be fought, and you will be, all these different things are going to be coming at you in order to tell you, submit, or we'll make you submit. If you don't submit, we'll put your degrees in danger, we'll put your identity in danger, we'll put your CV in danger, and we will put your future in danger. Submit, or else the cost is going to be your pocket, your future. Oh, and we'll actually expose you in the media that you dare to even speak. And that's what happens in what we see in the media. Now, the challenge is actually when you're not realizing those campaigns, when you're not realizing what's actually shaping our understanding of so many different things around us. Right now, what the media is doing is really acting as the place of entertainment, the piece that teaches you how to implement those philosophies in life. The education system is basically right now coming in to basically lay out the science foundation of how you view things. Now, at the end, you may not realize that such evidences in a lot of these humanities and the Department of Humanities is that they're presented as science. And what studies support, not realizing that there are philosophies that motivate how we read and interpret data. What you don't recognize is that a lot of these common challenges that students, they're trying to impress and trying to fit in, we're the same, getting absorbed by political correctness, and even da'iyas, believe it or not, are actually invited to be the major figures to speak, whether in different huge conferences and so forth. Why? Because they make the money, because they basically bring in the audience. We're living in an age where even the da'iyas, even the Muslim areas are right now succumbing to the same philosophy. It's all about the money. It's all about how we actually let people's definition of success and how people define that it's all about how many people accept you. The more people accept you, the more successful you are. So beware of integration that deludes your Muslim identity. Find pious Muslims to associate with, even if you can't find them. You create those spaces. Advocate for your rights on campus, and that includes to practice and learn how to stand up for Islam. Learn your Islam in order to know where your areas of vision are. Because if you don't actually have your areas of vision without you recognizing, you're going to be lost in your orbits. You're going to be lost in which direction to look, and you're going to be totally lost in where and who you should actually follow. So build your identity, educate yourself on Islam, and take the activism to educate others. If you cannot find the right group, you be the leader that you wish to find. Start with making the activity that represents your identity. If you feel the fitna is too strong, consider your akhirah, my friend. Wallahi, dunya is not worth it. Consider your akhirah. Think of that moment when you will be helpless, when you will have no power. What is the most important thing that you want? La ilaha illallah, to get you to Jannah. Don't tell me a CV. Don't tell me money. Don't tell me followers, because they will not mean anything. At the end, when you actually look at the situation that you're in to help you, stay away from all of that. Keep away from the different confusions and learn your priorities. And keep your priority is to always continue the mission of the prophets to actually announce and live in practice, in words, in identity, in every single place. La ilaha illallah. That's the most important thing. If you don't know how to live it, remember, at the end of the day, find the corner to learn how to live it. Find a group of salihin, live your Islam, study your Islam. There's no way that you can know what is haqq unless you recognize al-batil. And there's no way to recognize al-batil unless you know what is haqq. And at the end of the day, we'll just speak of the most important identities. How much time? You're going to give me 0 minutes right now? Muslim. At the end of the day, remember the 5 letters that are always used, D-N-A-I-M. Your most important priorities are basically, number 1 is basically your deen. To learn your deen is your number 1 priority. To preserve your nafs is your second priority. To preserve your mind, where you're feeding it right. And the first and most important feeding that you can give your mind is when it's actually clear in understanding haqq and defining and knowing where batil is. Because if you're not able to distinguish those, girl, you will be taking and cherry picking left and right and letting your own pleasure decide for you and determine for you. And once you let your own pleasure determine for you, you're going to go for that family and chastity piece, in where it will take you into a very murky tunnel. Along with the money, you're definitely going to get lost. So be careful. Understand your priority is La ilaha illallah and your deen. Live the word of dhikr in La ilaha illallah orally, in practice. And remember, dhikr is also a practice, behavioral dhikr, audio dhikr. وهدوا إلى الطيب من القول وهدوا إلى صراط الحميد. Make sure you actually remember that the tayyib min al-qawl, the truth, actually begins with you recognizing it with your mind, basically instills in your heart, and then it becomes what your behavior speaks. Wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad.
If you guys have any questions.
Oh, you know what? Can I just add one more thing?
Go ahead.
Just really quick. I won't take long. I promise. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Oh man, it went. Okay, here we go. This is basically just a QR code. Can you see it? Yeah. So for those that would like, yeah, don't worry. For those that would like to join me in different lectures that I actually do, you can actually, with this QR code, I do actually announce the different classes that I do in tafsir and fiqh and different things. So join me, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Is this on your WhatsApp page?
It's a WhatsApp page, right? It's a WhatsApp group that basically would announce like the links for the different lectures and so forth.
Okay.
All right. وإياكم سلام.
So, Shafa actually has a Q&A section at the breakout room after Awesome.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what?
After Awesome, inshallah. Just a few announcements. I have 1 minute before I ask for you. Just remember, everyone, to clean up after yourselves. There's no saving seats. This is a sold out event, so please move forward. If you see some seats in the front, feel free to come up. There are some reserved